This is the Elbing, a Tier 8 premium German destroyer. Or it's a little bit like a cruiser. You'll see what I mean in a minute. It's really more or less a hybrid. It's available either as an auction item or for Global XP. The ship has pretty good torpedo numbers except for the really slow speed, which makes the torpedoes kind of like floating sea mines. But the star of the show really is the armor-piercing main guns, and that is what the setup of the ship and the commander is all about. And that commander is Eric Bay. Base trait is shifty. Destroyer detectability is reduced by 4.5%, and we're going with a main gun build here on Bay. Vincent Mordoff is the first inspiration with Waste Knot, and that quickens the main battery reload time. And then we have Charles Madden as a second inspiration. This will improve the main battery traverse speed as well as its reload time again. And the traverse speed on the Elbing is a little bit suspect, so that's why you want to help that out. Observant Rage is the first skill. The destroyer main battery reload time is improved, as is torpedo detectability range, but it is at the cost of a slower rudder shift time. Second skill is Mortar. Destroyer's main battery AP shell damage and HE shell damage is improved by 10%, but it is at the cost of destroyer detectability, and we don't really care about that because this is really a gunboat. It's not really meant for stealth because of the qualities of the main guns. And here, reaching out is the third skill. Destroyer main battery range is improved by 6%, as is the secondary gun range, but there are no secondaries on the ship here. And smoke on the water is the fourth skill. Smoke screen dispersion time and deployment time is improved by 6%. And this is kind of important because a lot of times you want to sit in the smoke and just hammer your enemies, but a lot of times the problem with that is you are the guy who is supposed to be spotting. So the smoke screen is a two-edged sword as far as that goes. Unstoppable is the legendary skill. Engine repair time is improved by 5%. And allows for disabled engine and or rudder. The special effect is a damage control party cooldown time, which is improved by 50%. That is when you're within 4.5 kilometers of an enemy ship. If you rank up to a legendary rank 4, you can see I'm at legendary rank 2, that radius will go up to 7.5 kilometers. All right, and then we have the upgrades here, and I have gone through many different iterations of upgrades and commander options, and you'll see a lot of those links down below, as well as the way that you can access the ship to obtain the ship. So as far as the upgrades go, first upgrade I went with was Aiming Systems Mod 1. Dispersion of the main battery is improved by 7%, and torpedo launcher traverse speed is improved by 20%. And the thing about the Elbing is it is the most accurate ship in the game, and even though we helped out Aiming Systems with Aiming Systems Mod 1 here, we do want to consider main battery traverse speed improvement here, except I really want a quicker main battery reload time. So here with Aiming Systems Mod 1, do not be surprised if all 6 rounds get hits. And that's basically how accurate the ship is you will definitely get most of your guns on target if you aim in the right direction. And here I went with Propulsion Mod 2 for the second upgrade, and this improves the time taken to reach full power when accelerating is cut in half. I have tried an agile build with steering gears, but ultimately I went with Propulsion Mod. Here I am using steering gears Mod 3 because I figured that was more important than concealment mod, especially in all the testing I have done. Rudder shift time is improved by 40%, and the repair time is improved by 80%. So you will hardly get knocked out here with this option, as well as with Unstoppable on Bay. And for the fourth upgrade, we selected Gunfire Control System Mod 2. This improves the main battery range by 5%, and this is another thing that you really want to have with the Elbing is a much longer range. You want to get as great of a range as you possibly can with the ship. Here, main battery reload time is improved, but I didn't want to take a hit on the traverse speed, so that's why we went with the main battery gun range here. All right, let's look at the loadout. Ammunition, high explosive shells, which are pretty effective at starting fires. Armor piercing shells, like I said, this is the star of the show right here, and here is your torpedo floating sea mine option, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Consumables, damage control party, duration is 5 seconds, reload time is 38 seconds, and there is an unlimited number of those consumables. Then we have a smoke generator consumable, duration is 21.2 seconds. Dispersion time is 102.8 seconds with a reload time of 228 seconds, and there are 2 of those consumables. And then we have the defensive AA fire consumable. This comes with the ship. There's no way to select a different option, and this will increase the efficiency of AA fire by 200% when the consumable is running. Its duration is 40 seconds. Reload time is 142.5 seconds, and you have 2 of these consumables. And I could tell you that I have wiped out an entire squadron of aircraft carrier planes with this consumable running, so you'll definitely clear the sky with the Elbing, especially if you can get these defensive AA fire consumables running. Here are the boosters, and the big deal here is actually the Epic Battle Booster to increase the main battery range as much as possible. This improves that by another 3%. Ship comes with a Type 9 Premium permanent camouflage with a sea detectability range and incoming fire dispersion of 4.5% respectively. Let's check out the stats, and survivability hit points is 30,900, and as you'll see later, this is really a cruiser class destroyer is what I have been calling it. It was a cruiser that the Germans turned into a destroyer is what it seems like to me. Armor is 13 to 100 millimeters, so it is a little bit tougher than your average run-of-the-mill destroyers. And then the artillery. This is the big show here. You have 3 turrets of 2 guns each, 150 millimeter guns. Firing range is 12.5 kilometers, 12.4 kilometers. Reload time is down to 63 seconds. Without all these upgrades and modifications, reload time was right around 8 seconds, as I recall. Traverse time is 17.3 seconds, and this is also improved. I believe the traverse time without any upgrades was around 30 seconds, which is pretty bad for a destroyer. HE shell damage, maximum damage is 1870 with an 8% chance of setting fire, and you will set fires pretty efficiently with the Elbing. And the armor piercing maximum shell damage is 4510, and you will have no problem citadeling opposing cruisers. I've done it at 11.5 kilometers, so really surprises the opponents, I think. Torpedoes, you have 2 launchers of 5 torpedoes each, which is awesome. Reload time is 90 seconds. Maximum damage is 16,533, which is awesome. They have a detectability range of 1.2 kilometers, and they have a maximum range. They go all the way out to 13.5 kilometers, so you can pretty much hit anybody anywhere on the map, it seems like. And their speed is 50 knots, so basically I think what you want to do is fire the torpedoes in lanes that you think ships will be traveling in, and let them accidentally trip onto your torpedoes. At least that has been my strategy. Here are your AA defenses. This looks like a lot of guns right here, and as I said, you will definitely clear the sky with the Elbing, even without the AA defensive fire running, I think. Maneuverability, we are up to 37.3 knots. It was a little bit lower than that without all the upgrades. Turning circle radius is kind of poor at 890 meters. Rudder shift time is down to 4.4 seconds, which is pretty good. Concealment, we took a big hit on the concealment here at 6.6 kilometers by sea, 3.4 kilometers by air, and the detectability while firing in the smoke is 3 kilometers, and I think that's because the ship is just so big. And the armor, here you can see you do have a lot of green armor. And well, let's take a look at the armor. And so 13 to 14 millimeters is the superstructure, 17 to 24 is the bow and the stern, 25 to 26 millimeters is your torpedo belt, as it were, and the big armor here is in your main guns. So let's take a look at this. Is not exactly a Citadel, but it's where the Citadel normally would be on a regular ship, and this is a little bit of a cruiser class hull. So you have 17 to 24 in front, which is not that great. 25 to 26 millimeters on the sides and on the top. So suffice it to say, you really do not want to get hit in the ship. You'll be removed from the game, or from that match, extremely quickly if you're out in the open and you start getting nailed by the red team. Overview: tough, above average HP, a base rating, and that is true at that 30,900. And a lot of people have been going with Sims as an inspiration. That goes up to 34,000, so that is an awesome amount of HP. I decided to go the other way with the quicker reload and the traverse speed on my inspirations. Superior armor piercing penetration, above average AP shell penetration, and people were experimenting with the Pan-Asian Commander that improves the angling of the armor piercing shells, and you might want to check that out if you want to try to get some more armor piercing penetration and Citadel hits. I have found that I didn't really need to do that to be effective with the Citadel hits, as you're going to see in the highlight. Big guns. The ship is armed with high caliber main battery guns, and yeah, that's part of why you're getting all that great armor piercing shell penetration. So then the Elbing is a project for a so-called reconnaissance cruiser, and a culmination of efforts to create a destroyer that would be capable of operating on the high seas. She was a large destroyer with 150 millimeter main guns placed in twin turrets and carried powerful torpedo armament. Year of design was 1940, and there were no ships in the series. Alright, well that's it for the setup of the ship and the commander. Let's go out in a standard battle and check out some highlights. Alright, here we are in standard. We're in Greece. And yeah, it's been quite a while since that first video where I did the initial gunboat setup for the ship. And in upgrade slot number 2, I did have steering gears, and the big change here is I went with the propulsion mod. Here I'm looking at the teams to check out the destroyers on the other team and to check out any radar cruisers that might be lurking on the red team. But overall, I thought that I would benefit from a better acceleration. The acceleration without the engine mod with the 2 steering gears was just way too slow. This is a lot more reasonable, at least as far as I'm concerned. The one thing that did happen here is this match was played after I had acquired about 70,000 XP on the ship, where that very first match that you may have seen, the very first initial gunboat setup was with 0 XP, and it was literally the first match I played on the boat. I got 26,000 damage, a couple destroyed ships, but it really wasn't that thrilling of a match other than that. This match, after almost a week of playing the ship and going through all different types of setups, is a little bit different, and for me anyway, this will be the ultimate way that I will play the Elbing. The torpedo setup was kind of crazy with blue, with all those torpedoes you could put in the water, but it wasn't really as effective as the gunboat setup. You can get some massive damage with blue with all those torpedoes, but really it's like 1 out of every 15 or 20 matches you can get that kind of situation and performance out of those torpedoes. And in some ways, kind of luck. We're here. You see I'm taking a shot at the Brandenburg. I've got HE loaded. Here it seems like the guns are a lot more reliable, and you can get a repeated high score round after round if you play patiently and don't rush into the caps and try to push things too much. And here I am being spotted, and this is definitely not ideal. And here I did hit the smoke, but in general it can be a bad deal if you're spotted out in the open. And so a lot of times I will be very cautious with my main guns when I'm out in the open, because as soon as you fire, you are definitely spotted, and you can be focused and eliminated from the match. And here I have switched to armor piercing, and you will definitely chunk battleships with the armor piercing shells. If any cruisers show up, you will definitely wipe out the cruisers in very short order, as you will see later on in the match. Here is a shot I'm taking in the gap for this Bismarck, and now this is the bane of the existence of a lot of these types of destroyers, and because of that, the 6.6 kilometer range isn't that big of a deal as far as your detectability goes. And that was a very short radar, so I think that was probably the black that had that extremely short radar that you saw there momentarily. It looks like one of those torpedoes did hit that destroyer. I'm not sure if those torpedoes are going to get over there by the time the Brandenburg is moved out yet. So here I'm using the force, I guess, because these torpedoes just came behind me. I basically had no clue, and my torpedoes were so slow that the Brandenburg easily outran those torpedoes. And there were a couple of shatters, and like I said previously in the setup part of the video, you will definitely get 6 main gun hits, it seems like a lot of times, and there were 5 main gun hits, and we took out that Brandenburg right there with the armor piercing shells. So the armor piercing shells will definitely cause damage on battleships with this Elbing. So now we're going to swing around, and we are going to think about capturing A, but there is this Weimer right there, and we kind of have to deal with the Weimer because if we leave him go, he can really devastate the blue team because of his super quick reloading guns. The Weimer can also chunk battleships with its armor piercing shells, so you definitely have to watch out for any Weimer in any game that you're in. You almost want to remove them about as quick as you remove any destroyers. And it's kind of like I always look at it as similar to snipers when you're playing a Call of Duty or a Battlefield, where whenever there's a sniper, you want to take those guys out. And here's this Weimer. He's trying to hide behind the nook of the island here, but it is not going to work out for him. And there you see we easily Citadel the Weimer, and the guns reload every 6 seconds. And it's not as quick as the Weimer's reloading, but it is quick enough to get the job done here. And this is Citadel hit after Citadel hit, and that guy is gone. Just like that, we are up to 66,000 damage. 2 destroyed ships on 5 Citadel hits, and there is a Stalingrad. That is a cruiser that only fires armor-piercing shells, just like the Minotaur. And you don't really want to mess around with the Stalingrad, but he is way out there. His damage is pretty low. If we get a lock on him, we're going to start taking some shots at him. And we would take this guy out if we got close enough. So here this is a lock. Let's see if we can do something with the Stalingrad. And it looks like he slowed up and hit the brakes. So that is some good braking right there, because he stopped like on a dime. That is just crazy how that happened. So now he is within our range, and his guns are not pointing at us right now. So we've got a couple more shots to go before the guns get pointed on us. And when they do, we definitely want to move around and avoid them. But we don't have to do that because we took him out too on 5 gun hits there on that last salvo. So that is just amazing, the way that the ship is so accurate that you get all those hits like that, whether they're shatters or ricochets. The rounds will hit. That's the important thing here. So now we're coming up on this Yamato. I don't really want to take him on in the open water. Here I am looking for the intercept point. I'm looking to go over by A and capture A, and hopefully as I'm closing in on A, this intercept point will move to the left of this island here, and you can see it is slightly moving ever so slowly. So this goes really slow, but eventually we may get over there if we can go fast enough. The Elbing does not have a speed boost. That is kind of something that's missing from conventional destroyers, is the lack of a speed boost. So here I took some random shots. Like I said earlier, you want to take your torpedo shots in gaps where you think that the red team will be, but he is really turning on a dime right here. This is kind of really interesting, borderline crazy. I'm going to have to recheck my Yamato to see whether I can turn on a dime like that, but no worries. We did start 2 fires there. We switched to HE, and when the battleships, or really any ship, is bow on, we do switch to HE instead of armor piercing, and we're going to stay with HE for a little bit. If we get a clear shot around this island, we will continue to hit the Yamato, but the plan is to not fire the main guns while I'm in the open water. I'm going to wait till I can close in on an internal island here within A, and once we get close to any kind of island, here you can see he's a little bit out of range anyway, so that's just as well. I definitely do not want to fire at him until I get into A, so I'm holding my fire. I don't really have a great shot anyway, so that is fine. But look at how much room the Yamato, how much distance the Yamato put between those torpedoes. So that is just insane, the way that the Yamato can really outrun those torpedoes like that. That is crazy. But that Yamato is really booking. Here I'm close enough to the internal island here that I did take a shot at him. We only got a couple hits, but now I'm turning to try to keep these islands right here to the right of me between the Elbing and the Yamato. Here we are in the open water. The Yamato does not really have his guns on me. They're moving over toward me, so I am definitely looking to get over behind the cover of this island here before the Yamato can take a shot. And now I'm behind the island and the Yamato has disappeared. And 10 seconds before we capture this area, so we're looking to capture bases as well as wipe out the other ships to get the maximum amount of XP here. We did capture the base. It was a solo capture. Battleship's probably not happy. He came in right at the last minute. That seems to happen to me more often than not, is right as you're closing in on these bases, it seems, I don't know. I don't think they would program it that way, but it sure seems like there are many times where I'm closing in on a base to capture it, and right as the bow of my ship enters the circle of the base, it gets captured by the friendly team. So now we're spotted, and since I have 3 destroyed ships and there's 2 left, that is the black over there that we saw earlier, I think, that hit me with the radar, and I am kind of looking to take this guy out. So frankly, I'm sort of thinking about a Kraken at this point, and that's kind of a bad thing to do, actually, to start thinking ahead of yourself here. But these look like some good shots here. Maybe I should have gone with armor piercing shells. I don't know, but I went with HE right here. And these shells are not as effective against the black as I would have liked. And he is getting ready to take me out right here. And he had me on radar, and that is it. And you can see that the Elbing here is not really happy. He's really upset that he got destroyed, and he's just shaking like that. Uncontrollable tremors here on the Elbing after he got destroyed. All right, well, it was a big-time victory in the Elbing. 494,000 credits, 94,000 battle performance damage on 121 main gun hits, 3 destroyed ships, 6 fires started, 5 Citadel hits, 3 defendeds, a captured flag, and we had some boosters running, so that's why we have some big numbers here on the XP. Let's see how we did on the team result. Whoa, 2,800 XP on 3 destroyed ships, and this right here is what convinced me that this gunboat setup is the way to go on the Elbing, especially for me. You'll get torpedo hits from time to time, but the big deal here is the main guns and the armor piercing shells with the main guns. Let's see how we did on the economy tab. 321,000 credits by the time it was all said and done. All right. Well, that's it for the Elbing. It is a cruiser class destroyer with really great armor piercing main guns.
you can see you can get a great score in the Elbing without even getting any torpedo hits. So that's quite an accomplishment for a destroyer, I think.
Right.
This is the Jaguar, and I'll see you on the high seas. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you like it.